Tax Authority. And we're going to move on to Mark Kingon. Mark, what are some of the services offered by SARS to foreign companies?
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mr. Wickham, and thank you very much for the panel being here today. I thought if I may, Rakesh, that I could flight just a quick presentation, if that's at all possible, for people just to understand some of the issues that I'm going to address, the question that you've raised, if you don't mind. I just want to check that you can see that yet.
It's on our screens.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay, well, again, good afternoon or good morning, because it will be Dubai time on Monday, but it's good to be with you, and we look forward to further engagements with you should you wish to engage further with regards to South Africa and doing business in South Africa. This is really an introduction today, because tax, as you well know, is a very broad spectrum, and it's impossible within the place of 10 minutes to deal with every aspect relating to taxation. If we could, we probably wouldn't have taxation in the country, because tax is a voluminous affair, and it is always complicated. I just wanted to touch base on a number of matters, but the principle of South African taxation is really found in our strategic objectives. And I wanted to start there because it gives you clarity as to where we're going. And if I can, I'm going to bring that slide up. I'm not putting it into slide format. It just helps with the presentation today. But we have 9 strategic objectives. And really, the first 3 strategic objectives is what I want to tell you is key to you. Number 1, we want to provide absolute clarity as to your obligations when you do come into the country. Number 2, we want to provide and make a way for it to be very easy for you to do business. And similar to what Advocate Fuller was raising with regards to CIPC and their journey, the same applies to SARS. When we speak of having the ability to do 24/7 transactions with the Companies Office, a very similar thing with SARS with regards to our electronic filing platform that is there. And we want to make it far easier. But at the same stage, and very importantly, we must not think we are a tax haven or a place that does not deal with the tax affairs properly. And we will make it hard for people who do not wish to comply. So just bear those 3 strategic objectives, the first 3, in mind as you consider this and consider coming in. Those other strategic objectives are there, and very importantly, we have gone through a history of challenges with regards to our tax authority in the country, but we are on the path to building confidence and trust in the system. We do believe we've got a world-class tax authority, and if you look at us compared to many other jurisdictions, we do believe that we compare favorably. Just to speak very quickly, we obviously administer a number of laws, and very importantly, we are a residence-based tax system which means that residents are subject to certain exclusions subject to income tax. Non-residents are, however, taxed on the income from a South African source, and foreign taxes are offset against South African tax payable on foreign income. I just wanted to raise that and be aware of that. Who pays taxes? Essentially, all entities pay tax in our country, whether you be an individual, a trust, or a company, or an association of persons. You could be a voluntary association. There are obviously lots of exemptions. There are a number of specific incentives, which I'll get to in a moment. But in the company space, we do have a small business corporation regime that does give a lower tax regime. And not that it's applicable in this context, we do have a turnover tax regime. On top of that, we do have an obligation by people who are employing people to deduct payroll taxes, as we call them, and pay those over to SARS. And then very importantly, we have the VAT system, which I think all of you are aware of, value-added tax, where we give basically on the value add is subject to VAT. Our current rate is 15%. Maybe just to go back in terms of companies, we've got a varying rate, and obviously small business corporations is lower, going up to 28%. There's also a dividends tax that is applicable. How do you pay the taxes? And I think that goes back to my opening comments about us having an e-filing platform that is very readily accessible. And you are able to transact for the most part on that platform with regards to SARS. It's part of our journey towards providing a better service to taxpayers, that we are looking to improve those services and provide far more online services to taxpayers in the country. But just to deal with the issue, you've always got to balance as a tax authority the risk of fraud on the one side and your service to clients. And unfortunately, as in any jurisdiction, the easier you make it, you'll always get fraudsters claiming and trying to commit fraud in terms of systems. So we're always balancing service with the enforcement side of things. Just dealing now, coming more to the questions, dealing with SARS, Rakesh, just in terms of engagement with SARS, we've got a number of vehicles that are available and places that are available, especially with e-filing, and I've dealt with that already. We have got a specialized large and international business unit that is a ring-fenced unit, and it really deals with both the service element and the enforcement element for businesses. And obviously there's certain criteria to get in there, but that is available. We also have a specialized unit for high net worth persons and related entities. We've got a contact center and really a call center for in common language, which does enable you to engage. Obviously, they're sometimes not the skills to deal with every aspect of taxation there, but they do have an ability to escalate in that regard. Branch operations, we've got branches throughout our country that operate in respect of taxes and are able to serve you both in person, and obviously given COVID, we've introduced a lot of online functions that allow people to do the same services online. And there's no reason why these online services cannot be utilized from abroad in terms of engaging with our staff. Customs branches, we have custom branches and ports of entry that are throughout the country. In terms of normal customs transactions, which I'll get into a bit of detail later. Maybe very importantly, Rakesh, we mustn't forget the ability where there's a large transaction going to happen, that there's an ability to get advanced rulings on certain specific transactions to enable you to have certainty in doing business in the country. We also have an ability to get private binding rulings and binding general rulings, as we call them, which enable you to get certainty, because certainty in coming into the country on your tax impact of the transactions is critical, and we do recognize that. Rakesh, if I may, can I move to customs just very briefly, and I won't be going into all the detail. We will be making available a set of slides with regards to, and maybe before I get to customs, we will make a set of slides available with regards to customs, which is far more detailed. On top of that, we will make a list of tax incentives, which I'll address very briefly in a moment, that we have in the country, and then we'll move to customs and excise. I'm not sure if you can see that at the moment. Is it the same presentation you have in front of you? Or is it the corporate income tax incentives?
Well, what we see at the moment is an extra corporate income tax incentives.
I'm going to flight a slightly abbreviated one of these, just for purposes of today. But Rakesh will make this available to the people participating today, that we can go into it in more detail at a later point. Just very importantly, and I'm not going to go into the detail because time will not permit, we obviously have headquarter company regime, and there's certain aspects relating to that. Rebates, subsidies and exemptions, scrapping payments, there's a whole host of issues relating to that. Deductions in respect to the acquisition of intellectual property, research, farming, renewable energy relief, deductions for manufacturers and hotel keepers, And it goes on. So Rakesh, we can go into all the detail, but I think it will be far more interest to for our people participating today to get it in front of them. But as in any jurisdiction, there's always the challenge with tax incentives. Are they targeted enough? And they're always being reviewed. And one must bear that in mind as one comes into the regime. But there's a whole list of tax incentives that we can make available at a certain point in time. But you will find them generally aligned to what most jurisdictions have. And obviously a big one with a high capital intensive investment would be the depreciation and the write-off provisions relating to those. We have all those in place, and there's a lot of more detail that is available in place for that. If I may just jump back to customs, and really we are come out of a history of being divided into the income tax, VAT and pay-as-you-earn space and the customs and excise space. And really we still operate to a large degree in that vein. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of issues with regards to customs that you may face, and we'll provide the additional detail. And I think one of the other speakers will be touching on a couple of things with regards to registration. Very importantly, importers and exporters, clearing or registered agents must be registered or licensed before submitting a customs clearance declaration. And just to highlight at the very end of that page, and I'm not going to go into the rest, importers and exporters, customs clearing agents or registered agents are not required to register. This is the exception if you have 10 or less transactions, 10 or declarations per month. So just be aware of that. I think it's important. We have a AEO, and I won't be going into that today. Our customs is handled very similarly to what is across the world. And obviously you are required to make a customs clearance declaration when you import or export goods from the country. And it has to be submitted either electronically or manually. And we really are predominantly focused on the electronic framework. We are moving towards, and I think this is an important issue, an automatic or automated release of goods, that we don't stop trucks or things at the border, that it all gets done and only the risky items are stopped and scanned, etc., at the ports of entry. So automated processes is very important. With regards to doing business outside South Africa with our neighbors, we are working on, and it's been work in progress for a number of years, with regards to a so-called one-stop border post, which I won't be going into, which is really there to create an ability to have the economies grow without the stoppages at the various border posts that are happening even today. And that is our intention. And we do believe with implementing far more automated release of goods at the border posts without physically stopping, that we'll find trade flow at the border posts happening in a far more constructive way that enables the development of the economy. I'm not going to go into the rest today, Rakesh, in the interest of time, but essentially I want to just wrap up by saying, number one, we have places you can engage with regards to finding out more information. Number two, we have an ability to do most of these transactions online without the necessity to engage or come into branches. And then just very importantly, we have a structured way of getting rulings and getting clarity up front. And I think for me, those are the most crucial things, Rakesh, I'd like to leave with us today as we discuss this today. But thank you.
Thank you, Mark Kingon, for sharing with us how it is easy to do business, or how rather to file your file and pay your taxes, and also if you need to discuss any matters with SARS, how you can get hold of them. So thank you for that.